In round 17 of the AFL season, we had a couple teams with some breakout performances, and all I gotta say is it's time that we finally. I mean, I know I have, Donnie obviously has, but it's maybe for you, for the media down there in Victoria. Put a little respect on the Swannies because they put on a performance of a lifetime, as well as the Kilda Saints. I mean, back to back weeks now where we had some huge upsets and some huge changes to the AFL finals. But of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by the fourth and long correspondent, or fourth and long AFL correspondent, Coach Donnie Hess. Coach, how are we feeling after another insane round of footy and inching oh so closer to the finals?
Unfortunately, if I go by my tips, not very good. If I go by how things kind of turned out, absolutely spectacular because we went from there for a while thinking that the eight may be set. We'll have the eight teams. The rest of the season will kind of just be, we'll wrap up who plays
Mm-hmm.
who in the finals. And man, in these last 2 weeks, we went from a solid eight to there's a potential for up to 13 teams fighting for those eight spots. And with the bottom three still up for grabs and four teams still looking to get in, it is going to be an absolutely cracking final 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah, man, I really just can't wait to get to things because there's a lot to talk about, a lot of questions that we have to ask ourselves. And honestly, I might have a bit of a hot take that I'm going to talk about once we get to the St. Kilda game. But before we get into round 17, just real quick, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's always a blast, and thank you for the support over this whole season, especially in the last number of weeks. It's been really great, and we're at now above 20%. We're at 21% of Australian viewers for or at least our audio shows, and we're damn near still around that 50% mark for our YouTube shows. So huge thanks to the really great fans from down under, and of course this is the American voice of Australian football. But let's get into things with the first game of the round being Port Adelaide versus Melbourne. And would you believe it, Donnie, if I told you that Port Adelaide wasn't able to beat a top 8 team? This still they've only been able to beat a top 8 team one time. Melbourne bounces back offensively in the return of Ben Brown, but did Ben Brown was at least quiet on the stat sheet, So he only finished with 10 disposals, but I still got to ask you, did he still help enable their increase in offensive capability? Now, Port Adelaide has lost 4 games, or sorry, 4 games to top 8 teams this year. And then also, I mean, fears of Port Adelaide missing out the top 4 are very, very real. We talked about this for the last couple rounds. And I will just go out and say this. We'd love to hear what you had to think about this too. But they're hands down the biggest pretenders, or maybe from the season. They're not the most overhyped team, at least from the preseason. That has to go to the West Coast Eagles. But Port Adelaide, obviously, just been really disappointed recently, and they don't look like legitimate finals or premiership contenders.
All right, so let's attack this Melbourne topic first. I had stated in previous episodes, I said I think Ben Brown's inclusion is going to open up goal scoring for this Melbourne team. And boy, did I get proven right. Now, it wasn't Ben Brown that scored the goals, so I'll take a little bit there. I had said he was the consistent goal kicker. He didn't have as many marks, but I think he really did open up a lot of things for Tommy McDonald, who had been quiet previous weeks. Keziah Pickett as well. Both those two combined for 6 goals this last week because when Ben Brown comes in, well, the number one defender is going to take Ben Brown because he's the leading full forward. He's going to be the guy you're number one. So now Tommy McDonald gets your second best defender. Keziah Pickett now gets the third best defender. And it showed. Now, again, Port Adelaide has been a team that has been inconsistent when it comes to playing top tier teams. Again, the flat track bully moniker is not leaving their side, unfortunately. But I stated it. I said, I think Ben Brown is going to change the production in the forward line for this Melbourne team. And he proved me right, at least round one. Not specifically him, But Tommy McDonald gets 3 after several weeks of not doing as well, and then Keziah Pickett playing well as well. Moving to Port, I hate agreeing with you because they were my hot take for the season with the additions of Fantasia and Alir. They were my hot take. They were my flag favorite going into this season, and they have just faded so badly when it comes to the elite teams, to where I agree with what Minnie said. If they don't make the top 4, I do not see him winning the flag, because I think the top 4 is almost critical, because you're almost going to need that bye with as strong of an 8 as you potentially are seeing, or potentially could see in the finals. And it doesn't help that they get their young superstar Zach Butters back in this game, and he goes down with an injury halfway through the third quarter, and it's like the young man cannot catch a break right now, and he was their life wire, a little life wire for him when he was playing. He was definitely one of those ones that had some spark, and I think he was helping open up and free Dixon and open up their team a little bit. And when he went down, it went back to always trying to bomb it to Dixon. Well, leave her in May. That's exactly what they want. That's their intercept marking game, and it really, really hurt them. So Port Adelaide is going to have to fight now. If they want to try to make the 4, they're going to have to pick it up, because this was not a good week. This really does hamstring them. Just taking a real quick look here. I mean, and the worst part is that it doesn't get much easier, because you get a tough, relatively improved St. Kilda team this round for Port. So I will save my tip for later, but that is one I'm keeping an eye on.
I'll just put this in real quick, that even if Port Adelaide does somehow salvage their season and makes the top 4, I still don't think there's a chance that they actually come home with the flag this year. I have zero confidence in this team. Every test that they've been given, they failed. But this team that has been continually tested, but is continually proving people maybe wrong a lot of the time and surprising a lot of people, is this Essendon Bombers team, because they absolutely rout the Adelaide Crows. As the Crows put up a team record low points in 21. That's also the lowest amount of points scored ever at Marvel Stadium since it opened, 2000, 2001? It is one of those 2 years. And this was another game, something that's been a theme, something that I've been continually talking about the last 5 rounds or whatever. Their offense is non-existent without Taylor Walker. Taylor Walker misses this game due to injury, and they put up a franchise low of scored points. So it's almost like there's still that correlation there or something like that. And Essen, especially, they dominated the inner 50. They led this with 61-30, so more than double. And even with the look at the final score, you think that they're just being flashing, just putting up points all over the board and making it look easy. It still wasn't that kind of game. This was a team that almost grinded out a huge margin like this. And so that, I think, was the most impressive thing, is that they just looked like they just continually grinded down the field, and it wasn't like a bunch of, they'll kick the ball 50 meters at a time, They looked really good here. And I'm just going to say right now that, actually, I'll save my take, like I said, for that Brisbane St. Kilda game. Donnie, will these Essendon Dons make the finals?
Oh man, this is the question that I think a lot of people are looking at. It is that they're 4 points out right now.
Mm-hmm.
They've got superior percentage over St. Kilda, who's ahead of them, and over West Coast and Fremantle. So if they get to it, and Frio and West Coast stumble, or GWS or St. Kilda stumble, Essendon's right there. The issue I see with is their run home is an absolute gauntlet, and it's hard to argue it. After they play North Melbourne this week, they get GWS, then they get Sydney, then they get the Western Bulldogs. That's just the next 4 weeks. So you're potentially looking at a potential win, but as we've stated, North Melbourne's playing tougher. So this is not an easy 4 points this upcoming week. And then you run a gauntlet that's not easy. GWS, Sydney, the Western Bulldogs. I mean, there's a potential they could be 1-3 after the next 4 games. So I would really love to see the Bombers make it. I'm just worried their run home is absolutely going to let the air out of their proverbial sails, because it's just such a difficult run. And after the Western Bulldogs, it makes it a tiny bit easier. You got Gold Coast and you got and Collingwood, but Collingwood's playing better. So is Gold Coast. Now we don't know their form for the last 2 games of the season, but that 3 game set, GWS, Sydney, the Western Bulldogs. I mean, if you're Essendon, you want to try to get out of that 2-1. And if you do, and you beat the Melbourne Roos, I think you've got a shot at the playoff, the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, looking at who's there, I just see them falling short. I'm St. Kilda is the interesting team of this entire group because they are playing up to what I think a lot of people expected them. Rowan Marshall is back, which I think helps Paddy Ryder play better. So right now, I don't see Essendon making it. I think they fall just the tiny bit short. But if I'm an Essendon fan, the future is very, very bright with these young superstars and a chance to get a couple of really good draft picks as well. I am not worried. Even if the Bombers don't make it, you should not be worried, Bombers fans. I think you're in the running for the 8 next year with this incredible group that you've had that has been established at the hangar.
At the least, they're going to be in the running for the 8 next year, and they're going to be in the running for a flag within the next 3. Mark my words. Now, this third game that we get to was one that I wasn't necessarily expecting because we've seen once again, a very suspect Fremantle goal-kicking team with their obviously just abysmal inaccuracy when it comes to trying to put through the 2 middle ones where you get the 6 points, not the 1 points. And then they're traveling to Hawthorne that always play in Tassie very well, and Hawthorne's been on a little bit of a hot streak recently. But man, this game was nothing like really what I think a lot of people expected because Freo goes up to Tassie and they get a blowout win of 108-46. They win this by 62. And this is a really great thing to see because it was in Nat 5's 200 game, so it's nice that they did for the captain. He 1-for-1 with 31 disposals, a solid game by him in his big milestone of the game. But it was Rory Law that he really sparked this struggling Freo team. He kicks 4 in this one. And now Freo jumps into the top 8. They're at number 7 right now. And it was kind of interesting to see this because I almost have to wonder that maybe the Sam Mitchell announcement almost threw off this Hawks team a little bit, a little possibly. But the biggest question here is, will Freo be able to hold their spot in the finals?
Oh boy. If I remember correctly, if I thought Essendon's run home was insane, Freo's is almost even worse.
It's not good.
The last time I looked, it is a murderer's row.
It might
of going to it.
It's probably the hardest 5 game stretch of any team in the league right now.
Exactly. If you'd have to put at a 10 how difficult this run is, it is a 12 because you get Geelong this week. Yes, it's at home at Optus Stadium, so it's going to be a fun one. Then you get Sydney, which most likely is going to be in Victoria since the New South Wales' issue. Then you run this gauntlet: Richmond, Brisbane, your crosstown rival West Coast, and St. Kilda to end the season. I mean, this is if Freo makes the final, they will have earned it.
Yeah.
Because this is not easy. The one thing that is going to help them out is West Coast, Brisbane, Richmond. That 3-game set there, they are all at home. That really, I think, will help and can for these 6 games are at the beautiful thing I say this. Fremantle was my favorite team to keep on there this weekend because to see their brains go when they won this game by scoring 100 points, they have not done for them to put up 108 kick goals than behinds. And to weekend, it was absolute gold to look at some of the tweets by some of the friends who are Freo AFL fans. It
Mm-hmm.
was gold watching it. They were so much fun, and you can definitely tell they are enjoying time in the. This is not any fun. I'm hoping that they play this. Been absolute snake bitten two other teams this season. We will have to see. I, I I don't like the run. I think the run is absolutely disastrous.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll steal a couple just because being at home, they're gonna find a way. I'm just worried that it's gonna be 2-4, and they're gonna get nipped by an Essendon that maybe goes 4-2, or Richmond that somehow finds their form and goes 5-1 or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, I I want Frio to make it. I just that run is just so scary.
It's ridiculous, and the thing is that if they want to make the finals, you have to look at probably winning 4 of those 6 games. So there's 3 that I see that are possibilities, but it's really hard to figure out which one that fourth is. So obviously they're going to have a huge test there. And then if this Fremantle team somehow gets their way into the finals, they'll earn it. And I think just by beating enough of these teams in the last stretch, you almost have to consider them flag contenders if they make it in. It's kind of ridiculous. So to me, it's almost they don't make the finals at all, or they're going to probably be one of the teams that's competing for it because you're going to be that damn good to finish off this last stretch of games. So I'm super excited for it. And then I'm kind of hoping they make it in because I want a team to root for because, I mean, we'll get to that game, but I doubt I'll have my Giants in there to be able to kind of cheer along. But one of the teams that Fremantle is going to probably have to beat, or at least going to have a really good showing against if they want to make it to the finals, is Geelong. And it's this Geelong team that almost survived against the Carlton Blues this round because obviously Carlton's been lackluster. Geelong didn't look all that great this round either. And they almost got lucky because, I say this because in this game, Carlton kicks 11 straight behinds. That's 11 points. That could have been 66 points. Really a 55-point difference there just by them being that inaccurate. That's ridiculous. They finished 5-14 on the game. And Geelong, yeah, they look good. Obviously not great. They were able to take advantage of the mistakes that the Blues had. They were able to take advantage of the Blues not scoring as many points as they should have. But it was tough to see this because Dangerfield and Hawkins had no goals, no behinds in this one. They were off the scoreboard. And you have to ask the question now, are you worried by Geelong's performance, especially how much you want to credit this to Jeremy Cameron's absence?
This is just one of those games where if you're Geelong, you walk out of the stadium, you wipe your brow, you go, whew, we survived that one. Because if Carlton halves their behinds from 14-7, they win that game.
Yeah.
Carlton played a pretty darn good game. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and Geelong sneaks out of the MCG with a win. And if you're Carlton, you let one slip away that you may rue when it comes to your chances of making the finals, because this was a Geelong team that was ripe for you to defeat, coming off that devastating loss of Jeremy Cameron. Again, as you said, Dangerfield and Hawkins did not impact the scoreboard, and normally that doesn't happen. Geelong doesn't play as well when those two don't impact the scoreboard. They got timely goals where they needed. When you get Zach Toohey kick 2 goals from his defender spot, Parfitt gets a goal. Isaac Smith kicks a goal. Jev Buse kicks a goal. They won by committee in this game instead of with their superstars, which sometimes you got to win these games. You got to win an ugly game. You got to win a game when you don't play well. Geelong's just got to go, okay, we got that one out of the way. If I'm David Teague and Carlton, I am just absolutely livid because this was there for the taking. Geelong doesn't play well. You're up and about, and you can't kick straight.
Mm-hmm.
I think this game will cost Carlton their renewed chances of making the finals after winning two in a row, there was a shot. The mathematics were there. With 6 games left, it is still possible for Carlton to get there, but it is going to take a lot of help because of the fact that they do have that gap of 8 points. So
Mm-hmm.
you're down 2 games. So you're going to have to hope that several of the teams ahead of you lose and you win. And right now, you're not consistent enough winning games for you to really look at it that way. I mean, my cutoff, as I look at it, is Carlton. I think Gold Coast, who is at the same percentage but a little bit lower percentage wise, but the same number of points. I think that's where your cutoff is. Is Collingwood? Some people will say, "Well, there's still mathematics we could get there." No, Collingwood, you're not.
Nah.
I just don't think you're gonna get 4 games to go your way
Yeah.
out of 6. So I think Carlton and Gold Coast. I think are in somewhat they're pushing it. They're just, but this week is almost a. If I'm Gold Coast and Carlton, it's almost go 6-0, and you got to have help. You have to have help.
Mm-hmm. I think this game has the biggest impact on David Teague because there's a lot of people questioning whether he's going to be there or not at the end of the season. And a win here probably would have saved his job, probably would have solidified that he'd be back if they get a big win over pretty much a top 4 team. But the fact that they weren't able to get it done, this might really come back to bite them in the butt a little bit, especially when you get to the end of the year when they have to make all these post year decisions. This game, if he does end up getting canned, this is probably going to be the game they have to look back and say, if only they won this, and like you said, if only they kicked half of those behinds in the middle pipes.
Yeah, well, you could also even go back as far back as the when they played West Coast in round 12. That was another one too.
Mm.
They win that one there, and I think this season's on a little bit different trajectory.
Yeah.
Because you had West Coast undermanned, and you should have won that game. Yes, it was the SCG, but you were facing an undermanned West Coast team that was basically playing a waffle team, and you still fell short. So I agree. This one does not look good on Teague, but we'll have to see. I mean, their run home is quite interesting with Collingwood this week, followed by North, St. Kilda, Gold Coast, Port, and GWS. So it's not impossible.
No, not impossible.
But it is. I think best case scenario looking at this, I think 4-2 is your best case scenario, and I just don't think that's enough.
Yeah, obviously. It sucks to say it, but it's just about the season over for Carlton. Right now, you're probably going to be looking more for moral victories than actual victories that get you into the finals. And then, speaking of victories that might get you into the finals, let's talk about St. Kilda. They go in on the road against one of the best teams in the league, at least for us, the hottest team in the league. They're number 1 in our power rankings. And the Saints win this one by 32. They win their 3rd straight. Brisbane's previous 3-game winning streak comes to an end. And if St. Kilda does get into the finals, it's going to be because of this relentless, highly pressured defense, because this team does not let you breathe. It doesn't give you a moment to think. They're always up in your face. And there's hardly ever a clean play that you can make or an obvious play that you can make. They out-hustle, they out-pressure the Lions into making costly errors and shocking errors at times as well. Now also on the offensive side, you got Max King looking great like usual. 3 goals in this one. As the top Lions scorers were awfully quiet in this one, almost like what you saw from Geelong. Then even worse for Brisbane is that Eric Hipwood likely has a ACL injury and could very well be out for the rest of the season, which is extremely unfortunate because the game is better with him, and so this injury hurts everyone in this case. But I gotta ask a question, and obviously you have to ask, can St. Kilda make the top 8? And I did not really think that we'd even be having this conversation at this point of the year. But before I get your answer, I just want to give you, I kind of refer to my hot take with Essendon. And I'm going to say, so St. Kilda right now, they have the last 6 games of the season: Port Adelaide, West Coast, Carlton, Sydney, Geelong, and Fremantle. And I'm just going to say right now, Donnie, both, I mean, it's probably the hard taste going to cover the Dons, but St. Kilda and Essendon are both making the finals this year. And I would not bet the house on that. But, man, if we're talking odds, I would like to put a little bit of money on that one.
Okay, so I'll fire back before I answer your question. So, who are your two out? Do you see Frio and West Coast both falling out then?
Yeah. Right now, they're the obvious ones, but also I don't see Fremantle doing enough to win in this last really brutal stretch of games. And I have zero confidence in the West Coast Eagles, especially after losing to the Roos, which we'll get to here in a couple minutes.
Oh boy, this was the St. Kilda that if you asked me at the start of the season and showed me this result, it wouldn't have shocked me because this was the St. Kilda team I was expecting all season. A high pressure, high offense, high octane team that they hit you with that double barrel ruck battle of Rowan Marshall and Paddy Ryder, which I think is so difficult to stop because you either face the battering ram that is Ryder or the athletic freak that is Rowan Marshall, which is never an easy combination for any ruck because they're either going to be able to compete evenly with Ryder but not be able to stay with Rowan, or be able to stay with Rowan and get beat up when you face Paddy Ryder. So it's very much a difficult situation when you face St. Kilda when both of their rucks are healthy. I mean, the record is there. St. Kilda's only won one game without the two of them. They've only had one, either Ryder or Marshall. They've only won one game this season with only one of them. And almost all of their wins have been, except for that one, all of their wins have been with the two of them there. So they are definitely making an impact. And Hipwood's injury is absolutely disastrous timing because Brisbane was playing really, really well. You're in that stretch run just before the finals, and your three-headed monster has just lost one of its heads. Charlie Cameron now has to adjust. Joe Danaher has to adjust. How does McStay handle it? How does Bailey handle it? How does this Brisbane Lions handle Eric Hipwood not being there? Coach Fagan has his hands full trying to get this team refocused, restructure it maybe even a tiny bit to make it work, because he was putting Joe Danaher occasionally in the ruck to use his athleticism and jumping ability. I don't think he can do that now.
No.
So now the question is, does he bring in another tall? Does he adjust how he uses Oscar McInerney in the ruck now, because he may not be able to use Danaher? So there are a few questions now that are going to be plaguing Coach Fagan at night now. How does he handle this? How does he handle this? I mean, Brisbane's going to make the finals. I don't think they're in any way going to fall out of the finals. So that's not what they're looking at. But for Brisbane, this was one of those games where you could have solidified yourself in the top four, almost guaranteed yourself the four with this win. This loss only brings the pack closer to you, which will be quite an interesting situation going into it. Now, they do have a tiny bit of an easier run after this week. They play Richmond, then they have Hawthorne, Gold Coast, Freo, Collingwood, and the West Coast. Not exactly world beaters, but again, as we've kind of discussed, Collingwood playing better, Freo playing better, Gold Coast playing better. Hawthorne's the only one we're kind of like, not so much. We're not sure. And then Richmond, what Richmond do you get? So there's still a shot Brisbane could go 5-1 or 6-0. At least I think 4-2 out of this group if they play the way they should. So I don't think they're in trouble, but this definitely will test this Brisbane Lion forwards. How do they adjust? No more Eric Hipwood.
And now the next game is one that I was dreading to talk about ever since I saw the ending of it. Which, lucky enough for me, I was able to stay up and watch this because it was on early enough, and I was up late from UFC 264 anyway. Speaking of which, if you're a UFC fan, make sure to check out UFC Talk, which drops every Tuesday. I had to get my cheap plug in there. A lot to talk about from this pay-per-view. But the Giants blow... Oh, my... how many times do I have to say the word blow when talking about the Giants? Because they blow a huge opportunity again. They blow a 15-point second-term lead and then a 12-point third-term lead as they lose by 1 point to the Gold Coast Suns as the Suns kick goal to go ahead by 1 in the last few minutes of this one. Oh, and now they drop out the top 8, and then even Toby Green's 3-goal effort was not enough in this one. And I am really concerned. Honestly, I'm expecting GWS to not make the finals at this point. I don't want to say that their hopes are over because there's still a legitimate chance that they make it back in. But this team plays down to competition way too much. And when it comes to playing up to competition, sometimes they surprise you. But half the time, they're just not good enough. Or at least that's what it seems like. So I am really worried about this GWS team. And I just... especially as a sport, I just don't have any legitimate faith in them to play consistently enough and to play well consistently enough to make the finals, let alone have a run in the finals.
Okay, I'm gonna try to cheer you up just the tiniest bit. I know this isn't gonna be easy. This is gonna be a Herculean effort. GWS really, I think the game really kind of, the weather conditions, I think, affected GWS a lot more than Gold Coast. I think Gold Coast has really, over these last few weeks, kind of just accepted this workman-like mentality game. They just kind of have to try to outwork you. Mm-hmm. GWS, with the skill that they have, is a finesse team, and it was really, really windy in this game, and I think it more affected GWS than it affected Gold Coast. But I'm going to say this now. I'm just really quickly looking at their schedule. GWS, if they want to make the final, it's all up to them. Mm-hmm. It's not an easy road. It's not. But they're the masters of their own destiny. If they win some of these games that they should, that I'm looking at right here, I think they can still make the finals. That half game is going to be really odd for them. Like, it may benefit them if they can win a few games here in the right places. But when you've got Sydney this week, so this is like we discussed kind of off mic, this is an interesting game between these two because you've got Sydney off the high of the next game that we'll discuss. GWS coming off a tough one here. How does Liam Cameron, does he read the team to riot act? Does he run around the room with an open hand, taking each one of them and going, hey, wake up. You need to get your head out of a body cavity. We can't say, okay? Come on. Or does this team do like they did last year, unfortunately, and just go into the fetal position and wait for it to be over? I mean, that's kind of the thing that it'd be very interesting for him. So you face Sydney, then you get an Essendon team that I think you can win this game. I think that the talent is there for GWS. You get a Port team, flat track bully, most likely going to be in Victoria. You got a chance to win that one. Geelong, no Jeremy Cameron, even in August 6th, in round 21, when you do get them, I still think you've got a shot to win that game if your best players play the way they should. Mm-hmm. A Richmond team, we don't know what their form will be like, but if their form is anything like it's currently, that is a winnable game. And you end the season playing Carlton. The chance to get into the playoffs, the finals, I'm sorry, Australians, I'm really sorry. It's there.
Got to bleep you.
It is there. It is there for the taking. But really, it's how the players handle it. Leon Cameron, he can do all he can at training. He can do all he can motivating these guys. He can give every single halftime speech, every single motivational speech you can possibly think of, pull out every cliche and niche you can possibly think of in coaching. Mm-hmm. But it's all going to come down to do the players want or not. Plain and simply on this weekend, they didn't.
Yeah, it's going to come down to them not playing down to their opponents every single time they have the opportunity to do so. Hey, we get another derby next week, so we saw what happened the first time they played this season. Maybe they can pull off some magic, but considering how Sydney looks right now, that's going to be awfully tough because our next game, probably the statement win, at least of the round, one of the biggest statement wins of the season by any team, was made by the Sydney Swans on the road against the previous, going into this game, the Bulldogs were the top team in the league. But the Swans, they go in and they get a huge win, a huge upset. They pull within 4 points of the top four, and they're just that much closer to locking in a spot in the finals. And all I got to say is that this win, they'd even do it by their normal goal scorers. When you see that the Sydney team scores, almost 80 with 79. When you think they have a good scoring game, you think of, Buddy Franklin probably another 3-goal after, like he busts out every round. Papley probably looked great too. But no, these two combined for just 1 goal between them. But it's Jordan Dawson and it's Will Hayward. They combined for 5, and they're the ones that ultimately lead the bulk of the Sydney scoring this game. And Donnie, media, what I said at the beginning of the show, it's fact. Give Sydney the respect that they deserve, because they've been proving people wrong all season. They're one of the low, close to the bottom of the ladder last round, and I've been hot on this team going into it, and I'm so glad that they've just been proving me right. It's been one of my favorite takes and one of the favorite things to look forward to each round. But Sydney backs up a absolute all-out domination by every meaning of the word against the West Coast. They go and they beat the Bulldogs now. They're riding high. And they have a really legitimate shot at making the top 4. And right now, they are one of the biggest contenders for the flag this year.
Man, I remember watching this game, and I went into this game very nervous because you just don't know what type of game the Doggies are going to bring to you. And the crazy part about it was that on the analysis shows that I've watched and stuff like that, the Sydney Swans really did to the Western Bulldogs what the Western Bulldogs have been doing to a lot of people: slick, quick handball movement, quick kicking, just absolutely surgically perfectionist type of ball movement. Absolutely outstanding to see, and to see this young team with, yes, some experienced heads, but a relatively young team play as well as they did in a big stage against, at the time, the number 1 team in the entire competition, has a lot of people buoyed, including several media. Like, I can't tell you how many media personalities now are like, yeah, Sydney's a flag contender now. Sydney's got a chance. If you look at it in it, besides losing to Port and Melbourne, they've beaten most of the other teams in the 8, including a 92-point win over West Coast, and they only lost to Melbourne by 9, to Port by 10. So if you really look at it, it's under 2 goals. So they're in it with a crack, and I'm loving what I'm seeing. It's absolutely outstanding to see it. To Buddy kick 1 goal, and it was in garbage time late in the game, so it wasn't really a goal that I think affected the outcome. Mm-hmm. But to see Jordan Dawson kick 3 goals, Will Hayward kick 2 goals, Amadi kick a goal that was Euro inspired, almost off a absolute clanger by Taylor Duray, which was absolutely hilarious. And then I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen the Armadi party has a Twitter account, has an Instagram account?
Oh no, that has to be gold. I have not seen that.
Yep, there is a group called the Amardi Party that showed up to the Geelong game, and they were also at the game against the Western Bulldogs. And they all bring party favors and party hats, and they at least in the Geelong game, they had an Amardi Party sign, and they got Joel Armadi to take a selfie with them, and they're on Instagram.
That's so great.
That is absolutely outstanding. And Joel Armadi is taking over. Some of the Sydney Swans supporters are absolutely falling in love with him. And the scary part about this Swans team is to think that James Rowbottom has been the Medi sub the last 2 weeks, and he was a consistent starting midfielder. Chad Warner's been out with a shin injury. He's been gone for 4 or 5 weeks. He's not in the team. Sam Reed is getting healthy. He should be back soon. Braden Campbell, our academy pick, should be back in the next couple of weeks, and Lewis Melican. So we're not even fully 100% strong. At least the Swans are not 100% healthy. They are getting there at the right time, and this is an absolutely magnificent win. Now, we've said it for most of these games. Run home isn't easy now. It's significantly more difficult with some of the play
Mm-hmm.
of the teams that they play on later on this year. Not just GWS. We still got Frio. You still got North. Melbourne and St. Kilda are the 6 teams. Sydney has a chance to make the top 4. I'm I'm interested to see how this goes. Don't think they're going to get top 4, but they're going to have a mighty crack at it if they can win a few of these games over the next 6 weeks.
At the lowest, I see them being right in that number 5 spot, because I mean that top 4 is just stacked between the Doggies, Melbourne, probably going to be Geelong and Brisbane. But Geelong and Brisbane and the Doggies all looked either had a loss or they looked shaky this round. So Sydney gets on the hot streak, and these teams can continue to look a little iffy. They are more than able to break into it, and so I'm really excited for this young Swans team. I love them. I love watching them, and so I'm. It sounds almost bad. I'm obviously not rooting for the next round, but even as a GWS supporter, it might be a little messed up. But I kind of want to see just how far this Swans team can go. And now we get the last 2 rounds, or the last 2 games of the round, were absolutely fantastic. The first one being Richmond versus Collingwood, because Richmond, the Tigers, lose their 4th game in a row now in the battle of quite possibly the 2 most hated teams in all of the league. Collingwood pulls off this gigantic comeback as they're trailing by nearly 30 in the 3rd term. They kick 7 goals in the row between the 3rd and 4th, and they close the game on a 53-8 run. 53-8. And then even on the back with Tom Lynch and Liam Baker, they combined for 5 in this one. Obviously, it was not enough to stop this surging Collingwood team. And then you have to look at none other. Donnie, I haven't seen your team of the round yet, but I'm going to take a really bold shot in the dark that Brody Grundy made your list because he gets a 40 hit-out performance in this one. Another 40-plus hit-out performance. This guy's just unstoppable this year when it comes to that stat. He's easily the king of the hit-out. And I know it might be weird. It might be going off of... Shoot, this might be my biggest hot take. Because even though they're 4 points out of the top 8, and looking awful, it's always hard to say that Richmond's out of it. But I'm going to rip that Band-Aid off, Donnie. I'm just going to say, I'm going to commit to it. The season's over for Richmond, and they're not going to make the finals.
That's a mighty call there.
I know.
A mighty call there. I don't know. This Richmond team has just they have become, and as you said, I mean, they were up 30 points going into the 4th quarter, and this was a game. It was so intriguing because this. I'll rewind back because I watched the 4th quarter of this game because the Sydney Western Bulldogs game ended, and it was going to the 4th quarter, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to turn over. I'm going to watch this. I want to watch the end of this game, and I turned it over, and I'm like, crud, Richmond's up 30. This one's over. And when Collingwood started the period off kicking a couple goals in a row, I went, oh, this is getting entertaining. I'm not going to be able to go to sleep now. I'm going to have to watch the end of this. I'm not going to just... And as Collingwood kicked more and more goals, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to do this. And I was like, I legitimately was just in awe performance of Collingwood in that 4th quarter. The only part, if I'm Coach Harvey, I'm a little frustrated with is where was this the first 3 quarters? Where was this intensity? Where was this go for it type of attitude? It's kind of a bittersweet win because yes, you're happy that you won the game, but you're like, where was this? You could have won this game by more if you would have had this for 4 quarters. And I was just like, could this be the backbreaker of Richmond's season? Because this does not bode well for this. This really does stick them in a hole. They're out of the 8 for the first. For again, Now they're down in 12th. They're back in the mire of the rest of this group, and losing four in a row, and your schedule doesn't get any better. Oh yeah, here's your gift, Brisbane,
Mm.
who's not happy off losing to St. Kilda. Yes, they lost Eric Hipwood, but that's not an easy match. I mean, I don't think you're jumping too high off limb to go. Richmond could be 0-5 in the last 5 weeks after the end of this next round, because this is, I mean, if I'm Richmond, the alarm bells might actually need to be hit, because you're you are playing your worst brand of footy at the worst possible time, and it doesn't get any easier. You get Geelong after that, Freo, North, GWS, and Hawthorne. The only game in that entire thing that I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure Richmond will win, I'm not even sure now. Like, and that's Hawthorne, and that's at the end of the season. We don't know what it's going to be like. Is that game even going to be worth anything? Is it going to be two teams that are both out of the finals, so nobody's going to care? So, this is a rather fascinating result with Collingwood winning this game. Congratulations to Coach Harvey getting his first win as caretaker coach. Unfortunately, I don't see him getting this job with Alistair Clarkson, the Hawthorne coach. Now in a secession plan, and there's tons of rumors. Will he leave? Will he won't? There's now rumors assistant coach Don Pike from the Sydney Swans is expressed interest in potentially taking the Collingwood job. So there's a lot of intrigue now on who could take this open Pies job. So it'll be fascinating. And not to humble brag, but I called that one.
Hey, let's go.
In
Donnie.
our tips, I said I don't know what it is, but I see this happening. So I know I only went 3 of 9 this week because of all these upsets, but I'm gonna humble tap myself on the back for that one. So
Hey, take the wins that you could get, and there is a very, very real possibility that Richmond goes on a 0-7 run over this last number of rounds. They could lose 7 in a row, and then especially with North Melbourne now. Oh boy! Imagine if Richmond loses 8 in a row with their 8th consecutive loss being to the Roos. Oh, that would be... Sorry, Richmond supporters, that'd be a little too sweet on that one. And let's finish off the round talking a little bit of North Melbourne action, because they take on West Coast in Optus. And going into our tips from last round, if you remember, I really, really wanted to tip the Roos. The only thing holding me back was Optus, but that didn't hold them back, because the Roos, they get it done on some Monday footy action this round, and which was, I think, my first Monday night football game, technically Monday morning football game, but, Australian time. So I love my Monday night football for the NFL. I get a little bit of that action here with the AFL. And kind of what Donnie was talking about is kind of the same feelings I was before the show started. It was kind of what I was feeling, is that the Eagles, they get off to a lead. North Melbourne's holding them close. Then they bring it in at the end of the third. They end with a pretty good lead. West Coast gets it back. I was like, oh, damn it, it's not going to happen. But then North Melbourne finishes on a solid run. They win this one against the Eagles, and now the Eagles have gone absolutely demolished by almost 100 points to Sydney last round, and now they lose to one of the worst teams, at least on the ladder, in the league. And if Richmond's hitting the alarm bells, so is West Coast right now, because this loss, to me, all but puts the nail in the coffin that they are going to miss out on the finals this year. They've just been looking god-awful this last number of rounds. They are probably going to finish as the biggest disappointment of the team this year, and this loss is just, man, all it has to sting, especially with all those, with it being at Optus. That's just a little cherry on top on this one.
oh, this was the prototypical of the North season. A tough, gritty, hard, workmanlike game, and unfortunately, I think Mother Nature really helped out the Roos in this game, because the one thing that has really bothered this West Coast team all season has been games in the wet. And what did Mother Nature give to the North Melbourne Roos? A wet slog of a game, tons of rain, early, intermediate showers in and off of this game, and a tough, physical North Melbourne team that is playing for pride, They're playing to get better, and they just progressed. And they beat and banged this finesse style West Coast team from pillar to post. They win it by 10, but this was a game that it showed that this West Coast team is far, far from its glory of the 2018 grand final. And I don't know where it's gone or how to fix it. If I'm Coach Simpson, there needs to be some major changes, because there are guys now that have become passengers on this team, and who and what's going to change. It's going to be fascinating at selection this week, because it will not shock me if a few name players find themselves in the twos or the waffle game this week.
Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of soul searching for this team, quite possibly this offseason, especially if they don't end up not making finals, which I think is the most likely outcome here. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for our round 17 wrap up or breakdown of that. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on YouTube or on our socials, which you can find in the description and everywhere just by going to thefourthlong.com or thefourthlong.com/AFL. But now with that, Donnie, I feel like I gave a little bit of a sneak preview of your team of the round with Brody Grundy from a couple games back. But it's that time. Let's see what you got for us this round. I mean, was it a tough choice again to see who made it?
Oh, this was a round that, unfortunately, that with the Monday game made getting this team together a little more difficult, because normally I have this all set and ready Sunday night after the last game. During Sunday, I have all of Sunday to put it together, put my notes together, compare, contrast, yada yada yada, put my team together. But considering the last game was this morning, and I didn't want to put guys in and be like, oh well, great performance, I got to move. So I had my notes up until this game. Did my notes this morning, was trying to finish it off. So I literally just finished this team probably about an hour ago, because I had a few things going on. So here is my team of round 17, a very interesting team with some interesting people on and on. Let's go to it. We'll start with the defenders as per usual. Western Bulldogs, Caleb Daniels. 30 disposals, a goal, 2 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 5 score involvements, 3 marks, 8 clearances, and 474 meters gained. Sydney's Jordan Dawson, as we mentioned earlier, 26 disposals, 3 goals for the defender, 7 intercept possessions, 7 score involvements, 6 marks, and 511 meters gained. Geelong's Zach Toohey, the Irishman, gets another nod with 24 disposals, 2 goals, 7 intercept possessions, 2 score involvements, 8 marks, and 340 meters gained. Got to get a little bit of love. I know this may sting a tiny bit, sir. Gold Coast's Jack Lukosius with 24 disposals, 6 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 5 score involvements, 8 marks, 3 tackles, and 802 meters gained.
I'll take it.
Performance, crisp 30 disposals behind, 10 in 601 meters gained. Rounding out the defenders would be Richmond's Jaden Short, 31 disposals, 6 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 2 marks, 4 tackles, and 841 meters gained for the defender. We jump to the ruck, and sir, you are not inaccurate on this. Brody Grundy is behind, 8 score involvements, 5 marks, 3 clearances, 5 tackles, and as you said, 40 hitouts. To the midfield we go. Melbourne, Christian Petrarca, 30 disposals, 3 behind, 2 intercept possessions, 10 score involvements, some 8 gained. Love for the Gold Coast, Took Miller, disposals, 2 goal possessions, 5 score involvements, 2 marks, 11 clearances, 14 tackles, and 403 meters gained. St. Kilda's Jack Steele, the man of steel for St. Kilda's, 32 disposals, 2 goals behind, 5 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 9 score involvements, 6 marks, 6 clearances, 7 tackles, and 307 meters gained. Frio's father time defying David Mundy. 30 disposals, 2 goals, 2 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 10 score involvements, 4 marks, 6 clearances, 3 tackles, and 452 meters gained. And I was finally able to get him in off another stellar performance. Carlton super kid Sam Walsh, 36 disposals, 2 goals behind, 5 intercept possessions, 9 score involvements, 8 marks, 4 clearances, and 452 meters gained. Now a little bit into it. I am so far behind that I actually have to use my notes for the forwards. I did not get a chance to get this into my phone for this, so bear with me as I read these off for the forwards. We'll start off with GWS's Toby Green. 21 disposals, 3 goals, 2 behinds, a goal assist, 9 score involvements, 4 clearances, 4 tackles, and 374 meters gained. We jump to Richmond's Tom Lynch. 15 disposals, 3 goals, 2 intercept possessions, 5 score involvements, 4 marks, and 225 meters gained. We jump up to Tommy McDonald from the Melbourne Demons. 19 disposals, 3 goals, 2 behinds, 2 goal assists, 10 score involvements, 8 marks, and 416 meters gained. Collingwood's Jamie Elliott. 21 disposals, 3 goals, 3 clearances, 5 tackles, and 297 meters gained. St. Kilda's Max King. 13 disposals, 3 goals, a goal assist, 6 score involvements, and 10 marks for Mr. King. And last but not least, you had mentioned him. The leader with the most goals this round would be Fremantle's Rory Lobb. Rory Lobb had, now I got to find him, sorry, 13 disposals, 4 goals, 3 behinds, 9 score involvements, 8 marks, and 290 meters gained. We jump to the bench, and my bench is full of 3 players from one team. You'll notice it really quickly. Here we go. From the ruck will be North Melbourne's Todd Goldstein. 12 disposals, 2 goals, 2 scoring involvements, 6 marks, 31 hitouts, and 5 tackles. And Todd Goldstein broke a record in this game, breaking the all-time hitout record for the AFL VFL in this game. Also from North Melbourne, defenseman Jack Siebel, 27 disposals, 8 intercept possessions, 3 score involvements, 6 marks, and 533 meters gained. Our midfielder, also from North Melbourne, Jaden Stevenson, 38 disposals, a goal, 5 intercept possessions, 2 goal assists, 9 score involvements, 10 marks, 4 tackles, 4 clearances, and 547 meters gained. And rounding out the bench will be Archie Perkins from the Essendon Bombers. 18 disposals, 3 goals, 3 behinds, 2 intercept possessions, 9 score involvements, 4 marks, and 338 meters gained. Sorry about that little covering of the camera. I had to grab my notebook, and it got
no. It's not on you. It's on the AFL with those damn Monday games. Absolutely. Okay. Come on, guys, cut those out. You're messing with our recording schedule.
It's man. It was fine. I had a blast. A lot of the players, I pretty much had a good idea of where I wanted to put them. It was unfortunately North Melbourne's incredible performance made the bench a little bit more interesting, considering I wanted to get them in, but it was so hard because some of the performances were so good. But an incredible round of footy, so many upsets. So you got to give a little bit of love to some of the upset-minded teams with goal getting a couple, North getting several.
Oh yeah, I mean, I always love to see the Roos highly represented on this list. It really is a good time. And so, now the last couple parts of the show, as you know, is our round 18 stuff as we look ahead to the next round. So let's start things off with our power rankings. And for, I swear, the 10th or so round in a row, we have the same 5 teams, with 2 of them just being in different orders. I swear, I cannot make this up. We don't look at each other's. Obviously, he doesn't even see mine until I say it when we record. I see his, but I only see that after I make mine. So it really does crack me up every time. But we had the same number 1 team, number 2 team, and number 5 team. And I said last round that Sydney was getting dangerously close to breaking into the top 5. And so with this, they have to be up here. And I gotta say, I was really tempted if Brisbane, the Doggies, or Melbourne looked even worse this round. I was really tempted to throw in St Kilda. I really want to. If they get that 4th win in the row next round, I think they might have to be, but Geelong and Melbourne are at the top now, and it's the Doggies and the Lions that take a tumble. But where do you have these 2 teams on your list?
All right. So as we already discussed, I put Sydney at 5. I agree with you. St. Kilda was a tease. I almost put St. Kilda at 5, but Sydney's big win over the Western Bulldogs and West Coast Eagles, with both of them being in the top 8,
It had to
it
go to
was
Sydney.
really, really hard not to put them there, especially with Port losing, Richmond losing, and most of the teams around them falling out of the 8. So that was there. I have the Bulldogs at 4. I can't disrespect the Bulldogs. Yeah, a tough loss to a game Sydney team. I can't have them, as much as some people would say, well, Sydney beat the Bulldogs. Well, Sydney also had a couple of disastrous losses earlier. The
Mm-hmm.
Western Bulldogs, most of their losses have been to teams in the 8 when they have fell. So I can't disrespect them. And then I have Brisbane still at 3. Brisbane is the team that I think is hanging by a thread here in this 5, because another loss, say this week, to Richmond, and it's going to be really hard to keep them in the top 5, because a tough loss to a St. Kilda team. Yes, they're 3-0 in their last 3, but a St. Kilda team that is not in the finals, has been destroyed a lot of times. That was a tough one. So I have Sydney, the Western Bulldogs, Brisbane at 3, Melbourne at 2, and Geelong at 1. A sketchy 1. Geelong has more of a winning streak towards the end of the year, but we'll definitely have to see. But an
Mm-hmm.
interesting 5. So I take it that you have Brisbane at 4 and the Western Bulldogs at 3.
Yeah, so I like the look of the Doggies a little more than Brisbane to me. What kind of made me put the Bulldogs over Brisbane is that I'm just really concerned on how the injury of Eric Wood is going to affect this team. I think a loss to the Sydney Swans is not as bad as a loss to the St. Kilda Saints, a non-top 8 team, and you take a huge hit from an injury. So I think that might take them a little bit out of it, but it's still razor close right there. Man, Sydney keeps surging. St. Kilda keeps surging. There's going to be some teams here that are going to drop off real soon. And we might be able to get some fresh. I mean, Sydney's was the first team in a while where we got them to replace Port Adelaide. And so we had the same 5 teams for a decent bit. So it's nice to be able to shake things up a little bit more. Obviously, hardly any difference between our list. But I love it, and I would love to see your guys' top 5 too. Of course, our power rankings drop every Tuesday on our social medias, so just go on and check that out so you can get a little sneak preview to the show before we actually drop the recording. And it's time to finish things up with our round 18 tipping. And so the first game of the round is going to be the Fremantle Dockers and the Geelong Cats at Optus. And I really want to pick the Dockers in this one, but I think the Cats just might have. I think they might be able to bounce back in this one, like they did a couple weeks ago. They might be able to bounce back like they did against Essendon and get the win on the road. But man, this is going to be a really close game.
This is one of Coach Hess's proverbial. I'm going to tip one way, but keep an eye on this one, just because
Right.
Cameron's loss, I think, has affected this Geelong team. It really, really has. I'm going to tip Geelong, but I there's this sneaky feeling in me Freo could pull this upset. Freo, their midfield is healthy. They're hungry. Sean Darcy, I think, is going to have a field day against whoever Geelong puts in the ruck on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this could give Freo first chance of the footy, which I think really, really disadvantages an older, more physical style of midfield than Danger and Selwood and Guthrie and some of the midfield of Geelong. I think if it goes on paper, this is a Geelong win. I just want to see halfway through the 4th quarter, what's the score? If Frio is within 5 points or leading, or within a goal or leading, Frio's got a chance to win this game. If they are down by more than a goal or more than 2 goals, I think Geelong has enough to hold it out. But I'm gonna tip Geelong. But the old caveat: keep an eye on this one.
Mm-hmm. Probably one of the more interesting games of the round. Next one is going on over to the MCG. We got the Richmond Tigers and the Brisbane Lions. I think the Brisbane Lions get a solid bounce back win here, and Richmond drops their fifth game in a row.
Even without Hipwood, I have not liked the way this Richmond defense has looked with so many injuries. New players have not transitioned into the team as well as previous times with injuries before, and I think it continues. The MCG has not been the hunting ground for Richmond that it has been years before. I think Fagan finds a way to band this team together. They use Danaher, they use Cameron. They really get McStay to have a big game, and I think the Lions win this one. I think Richmond stays in this. I don't think this is a blowout, but I think
Mm-hmm.
the Brisbane Lions take home Richmond, and I think they really put Richmond's season chances of making the finals on the ropes.
Yeah, and this could really just be the KO punch of Richmond's season here. Next one is another Sydney Derby. We got the GWS Giants and the Sydney Swans. This one's going to be over at Mars Stadium. And although derbies are always fun, they're always close, they're always tightly contested. And GWS does typically play up with competition as much as they play down to it. But man, I think the Sydney Swans team is just on too much of a tear, and I don't see the Giants being able to beat them twice in one season.
I think this will be very interesting because I want to know what the weather's going to be like.
Mm.
Because if the weather is like it was against Gold Coast, how does Sydney's quick ball movement be affected by the wind? So I'm very interested in this game. This one, like several, this one scares me because you just don't know how how much grit is going to be in this game with it being a derby with GWS still having a chance to put themselves with a chance to make the finals, but they gotta win this one. Does Sydney lay back after a big win? I've said sometimes big wins can sometimes have you come out flat. This is a game that's terrifying for some Sydney fans because you get the great win against the Western Bulldogs, and then you follow it, and then you have a chance to have the trap game per se against the GWS Giants. I
Mm-hmm.
will tip the Swans in this one, but I think this one is going to be a tough physical game. I think it'll all come down to accuracy in front of goal. That I think will be the biggest stat in this one. And how, is it Mumford versus Hickey or is it Flynn versus Hickey in the rock battle? Because I think if it's Mumford, I'm a little worried when it comes to it because Mumford was the one who originally hurt Hickey the first time. So will there be adjustments? Will there be hesitation by Hickey when going up in some of these ruck battles after the knee on knee collision that nearly took Hickey out of this lineup for a long time?
Mm-hmm. Next game of the round is going to be the Gold Coast, somewhat surging Gold Coast Suns against the somewhat struggling Western Bulldogs. But this, if you want a bounce back game, if you're the Bulldogs, you want to get right back into being the team that the league thinks you are, you go out and you put a hurting on this Gold Coast Suns team. And I don't know if they put a hurting on them, but I think they get it done in this one.
I think the Duggies win this one, but again, Gold Coast is surging. They're playing much, much better. I think this is going to be a competitive game. I just think the Dogs have just a tiny bit too much. I think they're going to come out fit and firing. I think this will be a nice performance and a nice bounce back win for the Doggies.
And now, rolling into the next one, we are going to have the Melbourne Demons against the Hawthorne Hawks. And just like the Doggies, this is another really solid bounce back game that they have there at the MCG. Melbourne gets it done, and they almost have to get it done if they want to, hold out hopes and keep the claim that they're the top team in the league.
Oh, this is the fun one. This is the game. Does
Yeah.
Melbourne kind of like when they played Adelaide over in Adelaide? Do they take this team for granted and do they nip them? Melbourne should win this on paper,
Mm-hmm.
on the field, anywhere. I mean, anywhere. Melbourne should win this game. But Hawthorne just I want to see how they respond after a lackluster performance after the secession plan explanation
Mm.
with Clarko.
Hmm.
Did it take the air out of the sails of a Hawthorne team that I thought was playing well? Unfortunately, it sounds like CJ Jath is done, could be potentially done for the year with a PCL strain. Unfortunately, so I think that really, really hurts Hawthorne's defense because he was such a great rebounding halfback. This should be a game Melbourne should win this easily. This should be a nice percentage booster for them. But always keep an eye on these games because you just don't know. Again, Melbourne has had some trouble with lower teams this second half of the season.
Hmm. And now the game I'm really looking forward to is St. Kilda against Port Adelaide. And they're going to do it at home, Donnie. The St. Kilda Saints are going to beat Port Adelaide and quite possibly end up in the top 8 when this round's all said and done, depending on some of the other results.
All right, I'm not the only one. I
Right?
tipped the Saints too. I at home at Marvel Stadium. They play Marvel Stadium really well. This is a Port Adelaide team that has not played its best footy again, losing Butters, losing some of the injuries that they have. And St. Kilda is absolutely fit and firing. And when Rowan Marshall and Patty Ryder are playing together, they are darn near impossible to beat. I'm with you. I'm tipping the Saints in this one.
Oh, man, that's going to be a lot of fun. Might be a real meltdown for Port Adelaide, too. And then I think the next game is some of the most lovable teams in the league, the ones that you really just want to root for. That's the North Melbourne Roos and the Essendon Bombers. And although North Melbourne is kind of on a little bit of a streak, I guess, of one game streak after West Coast, the Dons have more than enough to get it done. But I think this is going to be a close game and a well fought game as well.
For being 18th versus 11th, this is a very, very intriguing game because this is North Melbourne could be on its spoiler tour the rest of the season because they
Mm-hmm.
have so many chances to ruin teams and to keep them out of the finals. And here's opportunity number one. Essendon is almost kind of a win to be sure that you have a chance to get in. So I'm gonna tip the Bombers in this one, but man, I think the Roos are gonna keep this one much much closer than many Dons fans want. But I think the Bombers hold on and win this one late.
Second last game of the round is going to be the Collingwood Magpies against the Carlton Blues. Two teams in somewhat similar situations in terms of ladder position, but also Collingwood is looking like a lot better of a team at this point. And then this is going to be a big game for David Teague and possibly his future with the league and with the team. This is probably one of the games where he needs to win if he really wants to make sure that he keeps his job at the end of the season. I don't think he gets it done, though. I don't think the Blues get it done. I'll tip the Magpies in this one.
And again, I'm with you on this one. I got the
Hey!
Pies. The roar back win over the Richmond Tigers. There's a ton of positive momentum. Carlton's coming off a lackluster performance where they lost a game they probably could have won
Mm-hmm.
over a very good Geelong team. The only thing that scares me just the tiniest bit with this Collingwood team is sometimes they're leaky in the back a little bit, but Carlton can be a little leaky as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to tip the Pies in this one, in the old rivalry that I think, though I don't think either team's going to make the finals. This one could be quite the interesting game to watch.
Right, I think that's going to be a good one. The last game of the round is going to be the Adelaide Crows and the West Coast Eagles, and I think this has the potential, especially if there's still no Tex Walker for the Crows. This has the potential to just be a really awful game of footy. With if there's no Tex Walker, I'll tip the Eagles on this one, even though Adelaide does play the Oval pretty well. Um, uh, I'll go with West Coast, but I am not expecting a good game of football, and it's probably going to be just an eyesore to end the round on, to be honest.
I believe Tex Walker should off of this last game just to be safe. Um, I'm I'm tipping Adelaide in this one. I have completely lost all faith in the West Coast Eagles. Losing at home against the North Melbourne Roos, I think, is the proverbial straw on the camel's back. And with West Coast's absolutely abysmal road record this year,
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Even if Tex doesn't play, I still think there's more effort and intensity on the Adelaide side than there is on this West Coast team after that dismal performance against North Melbourne. Yes, North Melbourne is playing better than the 18th team in the league, but I just I have very little faith in this West Coast team right now. I'm gonna Rose.
Yeah, I got no faith in West Coast. I have no faith in Adelaide without Taylor Walker. So, it's going to be one of those games where which one do you have the least amount, the most of the least amount of confidence in? I guess is a really ugly way to put it. Obviously, going to be something really interesting to see. And then before we wrap things up, just wanted to give a heads up that Donnie dropped a very great interview last weekend with a really young up-and-comer and a rising star in the AFLW. And that is a fantastic interview. You really should all make it a point of emphasis to go check out that one because Donnie, another really solid thing he got there. Hopefully we get more of these. He had none other than Daisy Bateman on of the North Melbourne Roos, and she does everything on the field as well as off the field. So please go check that one out if you haven't already. And also keep tuned because we are next round. We're going to be going through and predicting with the last 5 games to go what the top 8 is going to look like. So you can do this. We're just going to do it on the AFL website. Go on over to the ladders and do the ladder predictions. Then if you want to join us, we'll be doing a little giveaway. For anyone that gets their top 8 exactly right in the same order that it ends up being in, we'll make sure to send some merch your way. So join us. Donnie and I are going to be doing that and would love to see if you guys want to participate as well. But that's going to wrap it for us this round. And Donnie, like always, your thoughts about round 19 in one word or phrase.
Oh, this one is going to be very, very interesting week. I think this is going to be a scintillating week of footy because there are some absolutely fantastic matchups. I think there's ups. I think there's still upsets galore.
Mm-hmm.
I think this will be a scintillating week. So my word for this round will be a.
Well, I do love the little special vocabulary you're flexing on us with that one. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking with us all the way through. It's been a blast, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you amazing people that listen. And if you want to be even more amazing, maybe just pointing your friends and family in the direction of us as well. Obviously, it doesn't hurt, it's just maybe a little thank you. But we can't wait to watch this exciting round of footy, or scintillating round of footy, as Donnie put it so graciously. And there's obviously going to be a whole hell of a lot more to talk about next week. So make sure to keep it here, keep it tuned, and we'll see all of you in the next one.